Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining Crank Software's Inside the GUI series. Today, we're joined by Garry Clarkson, Field Applications Engineer at Crank Software, for a discussion on creating the next-generation user experiences through storyboards, rapid design, and iteration technology. Welcome, Garry.
Oh, hi, Roy.
Nice to see you again. Before Garry starts off, I'd like to invite our audience to think about these three questions as we enter our discussion. Number one, how often do you deal with design changes in your GUI project? Number two, what processes do you use to handle them? And then number three, is there any way to improve the handling of design iteration today? Now we'll ask Garry a few questions about storyboards, new technology. So Garry, just to start off with, in your work with customers and clients developing embedded GUIs, what's the importance of being able to sort of rapidly ingest and iterate on design changes from the developer side?
Well, it all starts very early in the project, actually. So one of the challenges is to get something to show as soon as you can. So that initial step, the day zero, the kind of project start, is actually very difficult. So we try and accelerate that. So we give the power to the design team, the user experience team, to create their designs in the tool of their choice, be it Sketch or Photoshop, and then bring that into Storyboard. So the idea is that we will recreate, we'll do that first step automatically for them. And that gives them something to start working with very quickly. So they can start adding behaviors, animations, transitions between screens, that sort of stuff. So it's all about getting up and running as fast as possible. And the designers, the user experience guys, are the people who have the eye for the detail. So they're the best people to do that.
Right, and just to get a little bit more of the technical details, so there's kind of two components to this technology. One is sort of the import, and then the tools that are supported by that, and then the second part is sort of the compare and merge once the design assets are into Storyboard. So from the first part, can you talk a little bit more about the details of how we support importing design assets from the first time, as well as iterating on them as the project evolves?
Oh, yes, great. So if you look at the process, so you'll have an initial design, or maybe a level of design which is ready to be worked on. So the idea is we'll take apart that model. So it may exist in Photoshop or Sketch, and we'll bring that in. We'll take it apart and take out all of those individual assets and recreate them for you as images and fonts and all that sort of stuff. And so that's a single button press. So it's click to import effectively. So we'll create your project, your first step automatically. And then that is the raw materials of the user interface, the UI, and it's where the designers are going to work. So we've got tools built into Storyboard which allow you to do that. It's kind of a wizard's tool. So it's a single click, literally. Yeah, so it's really, if you imagine the old way of doing this, you'll have to create it manually by dragging and dropping, or following a PowerPoint design or some other PDF, and try and recreate the intent from the designers manually. It takes a lot of time and effort. We can do it in seconds.
Right, and then the second part of that is sort of the compare and merge. So can you talk a little bit about what that actually is, and sort of the value it provides to the developer in the Storyboard workspace?
Oh, absolutely. It's an absolutely key part of the whole strategy. So, so I've mentioned the importing. So the second part of that is changing that master design in the Photoshop world, and bringing that in or re-importing it in our world. So we have an import and a re-import wizard. So that basically closes the loop. So you're able to make changes and adjust and iterate is a key point. So as part of that import, you're going to have to spot the difference. What is changed, and do I want to bring everything in? So with software, you can look at a change line by line in code. With a graphical tool, it's much more difficult. So we've built a graphical compare and merge. So each individual visual change, and maybe it's an icon change, maybe it's a whole color scheme change for a whole application, you can preview each and every one of those changes and go through the list and selectively import them. And this is how we're able to work collaboratively with or enable collaborative development by integrating that into the kind of revision control stuff. But that's one for another day. But yeah, it's literally a graphical version of a source code compare.
Right, and obviously all this sort of ingesting design assets as you iterate, building the backend integration, that type of stuff. Obviously, at some point you need to start testing it on on how it operates on the real system. Can you talk a little bit about the options that a developer has in terms of testing and validation?
Yeah, sure. We really encourage the design team to do a lot of the kind of look and feel and behaviors themselves. So this is not a software task, it's often a design task. So these guys know exactly what they want, and they're very, very focused on detail. And so they'll do a level of testing in the desktop environment. That's really powerful in terms of decoupling the software teams from the back end. And so they're able to do a lot themselves without requiring software intervention. But at some point, you're going to need to show this to somebody else. So that might be exporting it onto a tablet or a phone so that you can show the marketing people, or maybe get customer feedback or that sort of kind of behaviors feedback. And also we can deploy to actual target devices. So we can deploy to an Android APK, an Apple iOS, or what we call a gap file. A gap file is an application which will run on a target board. So we have a deploy mechanism to send it over a network connection to your board, and it'll kind of one-click deploy and run. And then you can see now your creation from your desktop running in exactly the same way on your target, and it's literally a few seconds.
Great, and then just one last question before we end this discussion. So we talked about going right from design to development to testing. What's kind of the one thing that recommendation you would have for GUI development teams to maximize the most out of getting to market as quick as possible?
Well, start your design early. So the earlier you can start your visual design, the better. So you've got something to work with, you've got something to show people and get buy-in. So this enables projects to move along as fast as we can. And also, we like to do the design first methodology. So you can use your design, your realization from your desktop world, and you can use that and the simulation tools, and then export it and use it to involve your hardware team in selecting the right hardware. So the idea really is that you choose the hardware for your UI rather than the other way around. So you may be able to scale down. In fact, you may find that lower entry-level hardware is actually more than capable enough for your realizing your UI. Or maybe you have to take a step up and choose something with a GPU. So the message really is start your design early, your UI design, and use that to move the project along and inform your hardware decisions. And then once you've got that loop going, you design and iterate and deploy very quickly and very often. And then you're not leaving surprises till the last minute.
Great, okay. Thank you, Garry. Thanks for all the insights on the Storyboard's rapid design iteration technology, as well as some insights as far as the development process overall should go. For anyone interested in checking out Storyboard for yourself, you can visit cranksoftware.com. There's a free trial, as well as a set of demo images that we have where for various platforms you can download these images and check out medical, automotive, industrial, and other types of examples for you to play around with and check it out on your real hardware. Thank you again, Garry. And for everyone else, please enjoy the rest of Embedded World.